Right, well, joining us on the show tonight to discuss these comments that Arun Jaitley has indeed made, Tanveer Sadiq, the political advisor to the Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, Dr. Sameer Kaur, who is the spokesperson for the PDP, Mr. Reyes Dullat, the former RW chief, who was also Prime Minister Vajpayee's advisor on Kashmir, Lalita Kumar Mangalam from the BJP, and Praveen Swami from the Hindu as well. Mr. Dullat, I want to actually come first to you tonight. You were one of the architects of the peace process when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was Prime Minister, where he decided to speak to all groups in the valley. He used the line "Insaniyat ke daire mein." He would engage with everybody. Today, yesterday Arun Jaitley has talked about people who will only talk within the framework of the Constitution. How do you reconcile those two?
Maya, I don't think the defense minister really has said anything wrong. I'm sure he meant well when he said that the government was prepared to talk to everybody. But, you know, sometimes it's not necessary to state the obvious that, you know, it will be within the Constitution. Because that's a given in the sense that nobody in Delhi, nobody from Government of India can talk outside the Constitution. If you recall, in 2004, when Advaniji began his talks with the Hurriyat, nobody talked about whether it was going to be within or outside the Constitution. There were just talks held. And as you just mentioned, to skirt this sensitive matter, because it is sensitive in Kashmir, Mr. Vajpayee had said, we will talk within the ambit of humanity, insaniyat ke daire mein. So I think that's good enough. Now, I can understand there would be disappointment in Kashmir because there were huge expectations from this government, and particularly after what Mr. Modi said during his campaign in Jammu, that he would follow Mr. Vajpayee's path. So everybody was looking forward to a repeat of NDA 1. In fact, the Mirwais hailed the BJP victory because of his past experience. And today, I'm told the Mirwais has used language which I haven't heard him use for a very, very long time, because he's talked about the UN resolution. So obviously there is a disappointment. And I am told that Shabir has said that BJP and Congress are, two sides of the same coin. So the Mirwais, who earlier said that, the Congress had done nothing for the last 10 years, I think people in Kashmir are going to have a rethink on this. And the message it sends on both sides, because what it has done today in Kashmir is that across the board, all the separatists are saying the same thing. And what the message it conveys from both sides is that nobody is really serious or sincere about the dialogue, which is unfortunate.
Okay, well, Mr. Dullat, thanks for those comments. Let's actually, before we open it up to our people from Kashmir, let's just bring in the BJP on this. Ms. Kumar Mangalam, you've heard what Mr. Dullat's comments are. While on the one hand, yes, he is saying that what Arun Jaitley said is not something which is remarkably new or different. He's stating the obvious. The fact is there has been a sense of disappointment by those comments and the lack of clarity on where the BJP stands right now with talks with several groups in the valley, and in fact the sense that no matter whether it's the BJP or the Congress, ultimately they're two sides of the same coin when it comes to Kashmir.
Maya, I agree with what Mr. Dullat said, that I don't think per se what Arun Jaitley ji said there was anything wrong in it. Perhaps, this is a very emotional issue in Kashmir, and perhaps the separatists there overreacted is what I feel. But it's very clear that the BJP has always been very clear about one thing, that Kashmir is an integral part of India. Sometimes people may feel that the obvious need not be stated, but given the sort of expectations that perhaps the Hurriyat also holds with regard to the new government, I don't think that Arunji said anything that is outside of either Insaniyat or Kashmiriyat. And since he was talking to the separatists, so why is Hurriyat also missing from it? Basically, I think we need to look at it in a more, perhaps in a more rational way. This cannot be just solved on the basis of emotions, and the BJP is absolutely clear that we want everybody on board. However, Kashmir is a part of India. And that is a question that nobody is going to be willing to compromise on. As Mr. Daulat said, a minister from the government of India cannot, you can't say that we're not going to work under the aegis of the Indian Constitution.
Right, okay, fair point. Let's just take that to the National Conference as well. Tanveer Sadiq, Omar Abdullah tweeted after he met with Arun Jaitley and that review took place, saying that he had a good meeting and that he thought Arun Jaitley got a sense of the serious challenges before the people of Kashmir. Can you elaborate on that for us, please?
Yeah, first of all, Maya, there are a couple of things that I need to put here. National Conference has always been votary for two things. One, cordial relations between India and Pakistan, and the second, being a facilitator for the dialogue between the center and the state. But unfortunately, when Mr. Arun Jaitley came here, he had a very fruitful meeting. He experienced what it was. He saw the peace himself. But when you keep a precondition on a dialogue, I don't think, this has been going, the stalemate has been there for the last 65 years and 20 years have been full of bloodshed. You can't keep a precondition and then say, okay, we'll talk. And if you're talking about, talking inside the ambit of the Constitution, then I think they should be first talking to the National Conference, which is the single largest party. I mean, I haven't seen them speaking. If they're confusing the masses, you're just adding to the mistrust here. You first start on a good step, you invite the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and the second you do is that the PMO minister speaks about repealing Article 370. Yeah. Third, you go and say that we want to rename POK. So these are issues that only create a lot of confusion. I think we should get out of that and stop playing petty politics right now.
Okay, all right, Tanveer Sadiq, we get your point. Let's just bring in the PDP as well on this. Do you agree with the National Conference on what they're saying as far as petty politics has got to be left out, and if indeed you're going to lay preconditions to the talks without even beginning the engagement, then you're already putting an obstacle in the way of dialogue?
Belonging to a party which co-authored and implemented, first with Vajpayee ji and then even with Manmohan Singh ji's government, the opening of traditional routes between India and Pakistan, such as the Srinagar-Muzaffarabad road. We have invested a lot in conflict resolution and peace in this area. We fully understand the implications of having peace in this region for the mutual benefit of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, India and Pakistan. Now, keeping that in mind, we understand Arun Jaitley's statement was appropriate. Being the Defence Minister of India, he at least addressed the subtle anxieties of the Kashmiris, but we do not see anything different from the United Progressive Alliance viewpoint in this. It was, according to us, just an attempt to bring down the expectation level that the people of Jammu and Kashmir have in the new National Democratic Alliance government. So he just sort of set the tone. The good thing is that instead of talking about overt aggression all the time, as far as our neighbor is concerned, we are talking about talking to people. Okay. So that is a first step. Otherwise, we feel it is just a calibration. Because tell me, what I want to ask you very simply, and my other friends, is that if you really want to have the sincerity of spirit in conflict resolution of this internal dimension to the external dimension that already exists, then why should there be any preconditions at all? That's what Kashmiris are asking. That if conflict resolution is about a democratic discourse, then in that there should be no preconditions at all. We should try and hear. You may not agree to it, but we should try and hear all shades of opinion.
All right. All right.
Separatists, non-separatists, semi-separatists.
All right, Dr. Kaul, thanks for those comments. Praveen, let me get you in on this, because I think a lot of this is also getting lost in the language. Yes, Arun Jaitley saying that they will speak within the ambit of the Constitution is in a sense a tautology, stating the obvious in a manner of speaking. But we're talking about the sentiment that kind of provokes then.
Listening to everyone talk reminded me of the football discussion you were having a while ago.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine a match where you never know which team the guy with the ball is playing with, and someone else is moving the goalpost in the background while the game's going on, you have an idea of what this whole Kashmir talks business has been like this last decade. And the bottom line is this talk stuff is now more than a decade old. When Prime Minister Vajpayee spoke about this, there was a ceasefire on the line of control, a lot of optimism, and a lot of effort was put into getting these talks going. But you had these racehorses that were polished, that were fed with the finest hay, and every time it was race day, the whistle would blow and they'd all plop down and nothing would happen again. And I think by the end of the Manmohan Singh years, there was a lot of frustration about this. There had been secret talks with the then Home Minister, various secessionist leaders had met the Prime Minister, and absolutely zip, at least the best anyone knows, came of it. And I think what this government's basically saying, or what Mr. Jaitley is basically saying, is the wisest thing of all: show me the money. If talks are going to begin, there needs to be some transparency about who is going to talk to what and what the rules of the game are. And personally, I think it's very good that Mr. Jaitley has come out clean and said that the Constitution is what binds me to talk. If you think there's going to be some backdoor deal, some sovereignty encompassing deal, that's not going to happen. That's off the table. I agree with what both the representatives of Kashmiri political parties have said, that you need an inclusive dialogue. The last NDA government just dismissed out of hand Jammu and Kashmir's calls for a dialogue on the federal relationship. It's important that happens. But I think also there's one thing that's damaged the place has been this handing out of money and backdoor deals and scheming and wheeling dealing. Let whatever this government's going to do be out on the table, have a serious discussion about it, and let the elected representatives be on that table along with everyone else.
Let's bring Mr. Dullat back in as well on the debate. Mr. Dullat, you heard the National Conference also talk about, if they're going to talk, there's also been statements coming from the members of the new government on Article 370, for example, which have been met with a lot of concern in the valley as well. Where does all this fit in when you're trying to sort of, kickstart again a dialogue process?
The impression, Maya, I'm getting, from the panelists is that a dialogue or talking is no longer a big deal. If that is so, if that is the thinking in Delhi, then I mean we should be candid about it, and we should say it up front that there is no need to talk to anybody, and anybody who wants to talk has to talk within the ambit of the Constitution. The point I was trying to make was that Mr. Vajpayee is revered in the valley. I think this is something somebody needs to understand and appreciate. And that didn't happen because of money being given or whatever. It was because he was regarded as the most reasonable leader that India has, or or the Kashmiris have seen in a long time.
Right.
And that Insaniyat ka daira has not been forgotten by the Kashmiris. But I agree with what the National Conference member said, that if it's not necessary to talk to the separatists, and this needs to be a conscious decision, then I think it's time to talk to the National Conference and the PDP.
Right.
And in any case, you have elections coming up before the end of the year, and then you can decide after that.